Go. Welcome, everyone, to tonight's Wednesday Night Live show. Our guest tonight is Matt Culley. Matt has been involved in the industry as a content creator, tobacco harm reduction advocate, consultant, designer. Also sits on you're the board secretary of Casales Media. You can find all of Matt's stuff in the header there, all his social media links. Only one I forgot, and I still got to get it in my head. Matt has a TikTok. And I keep forgetting Matt has a TikTok, but I'll get that one.
Yeah, I live in Montana though, and we banned it, and so I might not have a TikTok by 2024 anyway. So
okay, I'll still put it in there. But before we get all into that, let me set this up because this needs setting up here. My number 2 over there, Mr. Tim Swift, had a birthday yesterday, and I put this together for him for the show. So anyone that's wearing headphones right now, lower your volume. Surprise at the end. The young Tim Swift.
Look at that. I don't look a day over that. I don't look a fucking day over that.
I figured that was you maybe at 25.
That's not
no. Well, let's see. So that was probably like 90, 91. So if I graduated in 86, around 18, and then you add another 5 to that. Now, yeah, you're right. I was about 23, 24 years old.
But happy birthday. You look great, Tim.
Thank you. I don't look a day over 23, right? Actually, you know what? The only comment I would make about that guitar player, I think that would be the first guitar player in history that I would actually say that Kerry King plays better than.
You have more hair now than I did at the age of 23. So.
I've told you, Matt. I'm more than willing to sign a contract to be your hair farm. So,
oh man,
thinking about it. Your price was pretty steep though.
Yeah, I was. I tried not to gouge, but competition. I gotta get out there.
You wouldn't cut your hair for anything, so it wouldn't matter, Tim. We know.
Well, as long as it'll grow out of my skull, I'll hold on to it. I used to get pestered a lot when I used to work for Safeway years ago, and of course, that's where all the mothers would be, during the day. And I can't tell you how many times they would be like, "Oh, locks of love, locks of love, locks of love." Like, I'm like, what? Like, why are you all so incessant on me cutting my hair off? To put wigs on kids in this. And while I completely respect the people that do that.
Easy,
I got to
easy.
imagine that there's more than enough people that are willing to do
Cover,
that.
cover, Tim. Cover.
Much to his chagrin, the same was said of him at the Kroger and the Albertsons.
Well, okay, but
So,
in all reality, not to say that that isn't a great program and it serves a valid purpose, but I had heard that there was a lot of shady shit going on with
Shady shit with the hair.
with Locks of Love. I heard that there was a lot of shady shit.
Just
going
tell
on.
them, there's a lot of THC and other substances
Yeah.
in that hair. You wouldn't want to put that on a kid's head.
Exactly.
No,
Yeah.
don't test this hair.
If you want your kid to pass a drug test, you don't want me to cut your hair off.
multiple drug wars going on in that hair. Okay, multiple at once.
Oh, Matt.
Hey, I'm over here Jewish. I still can't grow a beard, so I have my own cross to bear.
I grew up, but it's gray. Tim's already let us know how his week's going. So, Matt, how's your week going?
Not too bad. Not too bad. Yeah, Tim got an AARP card too. See, you have a lot of things to look forward to because then when Social Security kicks in, like in another 8 years or so, right? Like, something like that. Yeah. Now my week's been okay. We had some company in town from Florida, so we've been busy doing like touristy Montana things with them.
Nice.
What part of Florida?
Orlando area.
Ah, nice.
Oh, so that's culture shock for them. Montana.
Yeah,
I just got back from Sarasota. It's Sarasota is great. Orlando, I can't imagine actually living there, but go on.
I can't either, and I always tell them that. They come up here like they came last summer too. They love it up here in the summer. But yeah, one of them's a firefighter down in Orlando, so he's got some very interesting stories for sure.
Paul, how's your week going? And I see you're outside. Looks like a good day there, man.
No, my week's going okay for the moment. Yeah, there's not a cloud in the sky. Beautiful winter's morning. Simple.
A kangaroo will not appear at any time during the show and punch you, right? Okay.
No kangaroos here.
I'm just worried. You're outside and stuff.
It's not going to happen.
The Australian feds might come punch him if they see him vaping outside.
Do you have a prescription? Do you have a prescription?
Whatever you have going for you in Australia,
really.
fast,
And the guy there at the bottom, Phillip, how's your week going, buddy?
It's going really, really well. I've got a lot of things accomplished. I'm excited, Matt. I'm really glad you're here. It's been a long time, actually. The 2019 rally was the last time I saw you. And,
I was going to say that too. That's the last time we've talked like face to face. We talk online, but never,
we talk online, and whenever somebody's giving you strikes on YouTube, I'm more than happy to just tweet my ass off because
I appreciate it, buddy. I really appreciate it.
Well, you may not want to know this, but I've been giving my mother all kinds of simple device kits over the years, and she decided that you are the really nice boy. I said you need to look at these YouTube channels if you ever have any questions and I'm not around to answer, because some of them are really good and informative. She's like, I like that Matt SMM. She doesn't actually know what that stands for. I'm not about to tell her, okay?
Yeah, don't tell her. Please don't.
But he's such a nice young man, and he doesn't take it for granted that people know these things. He's very informative, and he doesn't make me feel like an idiot. And I said, that's Matt.
Well, that's good to hear.
That is Matt's channel. That's exactly Matt's channel. Tim, you know what's up.
Hey, and I'll do it a little bit better. Hey, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of the Wednesday Night Live Show. Let's go through the Rolodex of folks that are in the chat and say hello real quick. Let me scroll up to the top. I'm not that old yet. Yesterday was an exercise in carpal tunnel resistance. I did have to issue about 8 million thank yous yesterday. So it was a little rough on the knuckles, but we made it through. Skip Murray, good to see Skip Murray right at the top of the chat. Well, wonderful to see you. There's Phillip. Phillip, he's right here with us, but he was chatting earlier. Mallory Gates, always wonderful to see you. How are you? There's a long lost face. I think it was, a week ago. Tom Morowitz, good to see you, Tom. How have you been? Great to see you in chat. Pam Spraggins donating to Locks of Love. Congratulations. Better you than me. Curtis Clemens, wonderful to see you. How are you, Curtis Clemens? I already said hello to Mallory. Rog. We got pirates in chat. We get Rog's another one. We got Rog the pirate in the chat. Good to see you, Rog. Addie Tooney in the house. Good to see you, Addie. How are you? Thank you for the happy birthday, sir. Steve Tottenham, good to see you, sir. Thank you for the happy birthdays. Don Ioko, there. Like I said, Don makes me think of my Volkswagen Scirocco because Scirocco. I don't know. There's just something edgy
That was my
about
first
that.
car, 82 Scirocco.
Really, I love that car. I loved the heck out of that car until I basically melted the plastic screws that hold the fuel injectors onto the pistons down.
Ooh, yikes.
Into the
I
piston.
think that's the only Volkswagen I've never owned, and I am jealous. That
That's
thing
for
was
Don. That's
blue.
for Don right there.
I had the spoiler kit on the front and everything.
Mine had like the body kit on it as well.
It was like the coolest looking Volkswagen. You know what I mean? So,
Philip, I was going to say too, please tell your mother that I said thank you.
Oh
And
no,
if
absolutely.
she ever has any questions, she can reach out to me and stuff as well.
I appreciate that, but more than anything, it was just like he's such a nice man, and he has, he has no condescension in his voice. And I said, no, he does not. He's a genuinely nice guy. So well done, sir.
Thank you.
And
thank
then
you.
we got some new people though. We got to address the new people. We got Space. Is that Space Turtle One? Space Turtle One. Are you a division of SpaceX? Do you work for Elon?
Somebody spelt
we
Bruce
must know.
Campbell wrong.
We must know.
That won't do.
Can we launch a turtle into space and then have it land squarely on its? Well, I don't know what they have. Do they have feet, talons, claws?
Like, I don't know. The monkey never came back, Tim. So I don't know if we want to send a turtle up there.
We got enough monkeys on this planet. So. And I like this name, PG Louie and Ole, the Russell story. James R. James R's in the chat. There's our second pirate of the night. PG Louie and Ole, the Russell story. There's a story there somewhere. I don't know. I feel like there's a story. Welcome to the show, everybody.
Locks of hair. There you go. Oh man! All right, let's get this started. I know you answered some of these questions when I had you on the other show that I did. So, but I don't think anybody saved the answers. I don't think I saved your answers, but I'm going to hit you with the first two off the top right here. First job you had, did you quit or did you get fired, Matt?
I quit, I think.
In style?
I'm pretty sure I quit. It was Noah's Bagels was my first job. And I think I quit.
Yeah.
I'm 90% sure I quit, but there's a small chance I was fired. I probably deserved to be fired if I wasn't fired.
You knew you got a heads up.
See, I knew he was a mensch. Come on, Noah's Bagels. I like it.
Dude, could have been that. That's the first time I got fat also.
Oh yeah.
Because we would get free bagels and you could take the leftovers home with you. But then when you're there working, you can make yourself bagel sandwiches. I came up with all kinds of creations and things to do with bagels. It was nice. Delicious.
Nice. All right.
Yeah, we had the bagel factory in Alabama, and I too gained weight. And I actually think I was fired, didn't quit. But moving on.
All right, this one's important. You could either upset half this team here and some of the people in chat. Are you ready? Pineapple on pizza, yes or no, Matt?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Oh, you made you
barkeep.
Oh, man.
Look, though, I mean, it's not like it's an every time thing. You got to be in the mood for it. When you're in the mood for something with a little bit of sweetness, and I like ham and pineapple because sometimes it doesn't taste as heavy as like something with sausage and pepperoni and things like that. So it's a mood thing. But yeah,
straight to jail.
Valid point.
Oh, Timmy, you're up first, buddy.
Oh, for questions? Oh,
sure.
Goodness gracious. Actually, I do have a question for Matt, only because this one comes on the heels of a bit of personal experience. And I know that Matt has kind of crossed over a little bit and he's working in the Delta market and stuff like that. So my question is, and I don't mean this from a negative perspective, but we seem to be having some issues here in our neighborhood. It's funny that I even have to talk about this. Do you think the inception or the acceptance of Delta products into the mainstream, because due to the Farm Bill, I'm pretty sure it's legal almost most states, right? At this point, I mean, the Delta products. At least I know here in Georgia, they're
There's a few that have carved it out, and more are trying to. So stay tuned. But yeah,
okay.
most.
So putting that out there, do you think that the acceptance of Delta products has created a bit of a shift in the youth usage arena? The reason why I'm asking that here is that we seem to have a little bit of belligerence in our neighborhood, because we have kids down at the pool we've been caught in the last couple weeks using it down at the pool, and they like to throw out this thing that like they're an adult and stuff like that, or they seem to think that because it's legally accepted, that should admonish them regardless of the fact that they're underage. They seem to think, well, it's legal, so what I have in my hand is legal even though I'm not legal.
Are we talking about Delta 8? I'm sorry. I'm
talking about any of the Delta products that are available on the market.
So there's the question is like, sorry, you're talking about youth use, and if I think that they've transitioned to that more than like nicotine or something?
In some ways, yes. I guess the reason why I'm just because so much hyper focus was put on teens and nicotine usage, and then since the Farm Bill, Delta products are on the market, and I'm not shunning the usage of any of those products. I mean, if you're an adult and legally allowed to use those products, it's fine, but it seems like it's created some belligerence in the youth that, while they probably understand they're not supposed to have it, here they seem to challenge us because, it's a legal product technically.
Yeah. Well, let me start out by saying I actually don't work in the D8 market anymore. Okay. Not because I don't like the products, but it just didn't work out with the company, and I just recently took a position for a company that's creating cannabis hardware. So like not filled stuff, but just hardware. But as far as like youth use, yeah, I mean, I've heard of a lot of youth use going up. I don't, unfortunately, it's always going to be, at least for now, it's always going to be like reported as one thing, whether they're vaping D8 or nicotine. And, we need to continuously try to educate and let people know that there's a difference, but I don't see that stopping for a good long time. I do think that there's a lot of youth that use it because, just like a lot of smoke shops, it's easier for them to maybe get a disposable. They can also get a D8 product there. And there's a lot of smoke shops that are still, even like in my state, there's a lot of smoke shops that aren't even exercising the tobacco 21 laws. So, 18-year-olds are going in there and buying vapes and D8 stuff as well. So, I just think it's inevitable with any of these products, like if adults are going to like them, teens are going to like them too. But I do think that there's probably going to be a reckoning coming because, some of the marketing's fairly childish with a lot of the, D8 stuff. And, it's kind of the Wild West right now. And with the Farm Bill, it was just a badly written bill that was overlooked. And I foresee D8 getting pushed into the cannabis category, sooner rather than later, to where, it's going to be considered the same as D9 and whatnot. So in states that have legal cannabis, they'll probably allow it, and maybe allow dispensaries to sell it. But I don't think it's going to be a loophole or whatever we want to call it forever. I don't see it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know if Georgia is anything like Alabama, but Alabama is, marijuana Delta 9 is absolutely 100% illegal. We're still one of those states that throws you in jail for a joint.
Yeah,
trust me, I know these things. Anyway, Delta 8 is one of the. No, I don't. The thing about Delta 8 and it being a gray area is that has created an opportunity, especially in our state where we are so anti marijuana legalization. It's almost like this is where it's gone the most idiotic. Once you had some well-made refined products that you could get only at vape shops, limited supply, and next thing you know, they're selling them at the Circle K and at Texaco, and you have absolutely no idea what's what. And I actually enjoyed, this one particular brand of Delta 8 because it was helpful with mild insomnia, and I can't even find it anymore because it's just there's a million different, and they're all the marketing is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I like I'm pretty tolerant of some let's just say playful marketing, but it's terrible.
Wait, they're good. They're the drinkers right there. Look at them. Look at the
this could get-
drinkers. Look at them.
The booze hounds return.
They're having more fun than we are.
Yeah,
Throwing them back.
I might have to get a beer now.
Hey guys,
Hey,
Don't
what's
despair. We still have time.
we just
Hey,
want to
girl.
come on and say hi because we miss you guys.
Yeah, I miss
Hey.
you guys too. Hope you're having fun.
Of
Where are
course.
you guys at, Allie?
What?
Where you get-
Miami, right?
Oh, Miami.
Miami.
Oh God, they're in Miami. They're the beach bodies. Look out.
Partying.
I wanted to go, but you guys are better off without my old ass being there, just holding you up.
Well, I'm just surprised she's not poolside.
You,
holding
you
a
don't
drink
want
with
you
an
don't want
umbrella.
us invading your party.
What?
You don't want us
No,
invading your
we're
party.
not. We're this professional.
No way.
They're
We're
being
in the
professional.
lobby.
They're being
Yeah, we're
professional.
at the bar. The lobby's super professional.
Well, since you jumped on, Allie, do you have a question for Matt?
Yeah. Matt, why do you always come on the show when I'm not there?
That's always one of the questions I ask John when he writes. I say, "Is Allie there or not?" And when you're not, I say, "Okay, I'm coming," because I'm just scared of you. No, I'm kidding. I'm totally joking. Next time for sure, we'll make sure it's on a date when you're on.
Yes, please, because I love you guys and I would love to interview you. But
Yeah.
obviously, we've been dealing with bullshit all day, so we've had a few drinks.
Just a
I
few.
have no idea what that
Taking
means.
back a few Coca-Colas,
All over the world.
See, now would be a good time to have a trivia show, John.
Yeah! all right, I'm in. The next
Well,
time.
As you know, we are still reigning champions.
Next Wednesday. Yes?
We'll get you
We're
that.
overdue. We need to have
We
one.
are overdue,
Yeah.
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 Phillip,
All right, well,
you
we're
got
gonna
a
go have
question?
dinner with our boss. I just wanted to stop in and say hi, Matt.
All right, have
Hi.
a good
It's
dinner.
nice seeing you. Have
Hey.
Love
fun.
you guys.
Bye,
Yeah,
y'all.
you're going down. Bye. You're going down. You're going down.
Oh man.
Oh, Phillip,
It
you
looked
got
like
a question for
twins.
Matt.
A question for Matt.
Oh, one thing I
Uh,
did want to say on the D8 thing, just really quickly though. Sorry, before we jump
go
to something
ahead.
else. Unfortunately, if we do see more D8 crackdowns, state bans, things like that, it's going to negatively affect vape shops because a lot of them, in order to survive, have had to diversify. And so, it could be like an unintended consequence, to where vape shops are closing down if D8 doesn't survive. So that's another shitty thing worth pointing out.
And that was actually something I was going to bring up because in Alabama's also the ultimate whereas Alabama is absolutely no drugs, no illicit drugs. Marijuana is so far away from being legal in this state, whereas in California, of course, the sharp contrast is that we are, well, for the most part in the history of vaping in Alabama, we've been very innovation forward, vape friendly, and now what we're seeing is a lot of the vape shops that have diversified, the ones that were initially, I guess you could say, already diversified, that were more head shops than vape shops, are the ones that are getting rated by our alcoholic beverage board. And we've made some progress, not giving the ABC board here more money than they already have, which hopefully is going to stay right where it's at, which is a good idea. But the Delta 8 here is, let's just say the vape shops that have decided to, go all in on Delta 8 products, Alabama is more than happy to target them. And it's just, hey, it's the heart of Dixie. Vape nicotine all you want, but as soon as you start talking about, THC or the wacky weed, they go
Don't
nuts.
touch those hippie drugs.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the reason why I asked the question is because I feel like that's not that it shouldn't. It seems to go a little bit overlooked. Like you still feel like the magnifying glass is still on vaping from a hyper focus perspective, meaning like they don't lay off the gas when it comes to the vaping thing, right? But now you've got the Delta products, which are pretty fluid in the system. And what still kind of blows me away is that the kids that we have discovered engaging in that still want to go down like the flowered hemp, path. Like they're rolling hemp joints and stuff like that. They're not down there with, pen vaporizers with THC in it. They're not down there swallowing gummies by the pound, which, that all becomes
at least they have an
part of it.
appreciation for the classics, right?
Yeah. And what they can do on their own accord behind closed doors, I don't care what they do. The problem is they're bringing it to a public space and they're doing it sort of belligerently in front of parents and kids. And so with the role that I have here, I have a duty to ensure that common area is safe for all those people. So it's been a bit of a battle. So I don't feel like it's not the dichotomy of like, take your Delta products and go away. Like, I don't care what you do when I don't see you. Just don't do it right here in front of everybody else. But I feel like maybe a bit of that goes overlooked because there's so much more at their disposal. Do you know what I mean? Like vapes, we know what that is. They go to the stores and that's what they can buy. But, I don't know if parents are recognizing the fact that there are things like the edibles out there, like the gummies and all that stuff. So it's just funny.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. Like nicotine vaping is still probably like, enemy number one when it comes to like, the parent groups and the aunts groups. But I have seen more and more, it's like they're hedging their bets, right? Like, so there's more and more of these aunts groups that seem like they're starting to expand into like the anti-cannabis realm and, starting to fearmonger about teen use and whatnot. Obviously, teens do use it. So it's not like doesn't happen, but their way of treating it never really works out well. I'm sure they'll demonize it, but that how are you going to do that with D8? We've already gone through that road with D9. Like, are they going to do the same old tropes and reefer madness shit again? I don't know, but I mean, honestly,
I think eventually they're going to go after the packaging. The packaging is going to be number one.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Is I think it's going to have to be regulated at some point, but.
Oh yeah.
Who's going to regulate it? Is it going to end up being FDA on a federal level? That's not going to be a good thing for D8 or, is FDA going to try to get all cannabis products? Obviously that's going to be really bad as well. So, there's the story has yet to be written on cannabinoids in this country. There's a lot of, what ifs and what's going to happen. Federal legalization, when's that going to happen? So on and so forth.
It just kind of blows my mind, though. They seen what we went through with the packaging. And let's be honest, these are groups of individuals that, not all of them, but a majority of them have been fighting a long fucking time to get to where they're at right now with this product. And now they got their foot in the door. And they're kind of taking a page out of our book with how things were in the beginning with our packaging, with the cartoons and all the other nonsense. And it just makes me wonder why they're going down this road. They know they got a good product. They know that nobody's bothering them right now. They could have put out an adult looking product. And I get it. We like colors. I'm with everybody. I like cartoons still. I like fancy colors. I love fruity flavors, but it would just seem like they should have seen what we went through and kind of said to everyone in the industry, and let's take a step back. Let's make this more of an adult looking package.
I'll tell you exactly why they're doing what they're doing. And they're doing it for the exact same reasons that people in nicotine vape did it. And that's oversaturation. So the D8 market is now very, very saturated and there's a shitload of competition. Yeah. And once a few start doing those little, flashy packaging that's on the edge or way over the edge, other people follow because they feel like that's how they make money. And so when, it works, unfortunately, like when a lot of the most popular, e-liquid companies, back in 2016, 2017, 2018 had pretty childish packaging. And a lot of the most popular D8 companies now have pretty childish packaging. Not all. There's definitely some that do it better than others, but there's some, like when I go to some of these, trade shows like Champs or TPE, where you walk by their booth and it definitely gives you those 2017 nicotine vaping vibes.
The wheelchair crippler,
You're-
D8 cherry
you're-
bomb, things of that nature. It's pretty, it's out there.
Matt's looking around. Where's the cloud comp? Where's the cloud comp?
This is nostalgic. Booth babes, freaking cartoons.
I apologize for nothing. Let's just say we are where we are, and I almost think that in places like Alabama, for example, when vape shops, I'm all in favor of diversifying, but unfortunately, Alabama, where vaping has been tolerated for the most part pretty well, as soon as they see them with a couple Delta 8 products, they're like, oh, they're getting into the devil's business, and well, there's a whole story about that here. So let's just say that I don't know if the farm bill that you're talking about is a Georgia or something that also applies here, but if there's one thing, the vaping now being associated with Delta 8, regardless of how innocuous it might be, that is, I think, hurt really otherwise really terrific, very responsible vape shops here.
Well, but it's also like we've ever since people started vaping cannabis more. Well, dryer vaporizers have been a thing for a long time, but really when like the concentrate cart started getting popular, that's when it really started being conflated with vaping. And so, look at what happened with EVALI. Same thing happened on a national level where it was, black market THC carts, but it all goes into the category of vaping. So I think, regardless of whether a vape shop sells D8 and nicotine or not, like we're like we've been pushed together by the ants, and all we can do is try to educate one person at a time. And obviously these stuff just takes a while, like education in general. A lot of these product categories are newer in the cannabis space, and people, 10 years from now, a lot more people will understand them and be able to differentiate the differences. But now it's just like vaping anything is vaping.
Yeah. Paul, you got a question?
Yeah, I've actually got a couple of questions. Like over the last couple of years, I've seen advancements in some of the hardware that is now out on the market in the cannabis space. Over the next few years, Matt, where do you think development of the hardware is going to go? And is there a market for advancing the technology of the hardware?
Yeah, I mean, there's more space for innovation in cannabis hardware than there is in nicotine hardware. It doesn't mean that there's not innovation left in nicotine hardware. I'm sure somebody at some point is going to come up with something crazy that maybe changes the game again, and we're all going to be like, "Wow, we didn't think of that." But I do think that like cannabis hardware is a bit behind nicotine hardware, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that the hardware for cannabis is still made in China, but the Chinese don't have cannabis there to be able to test an R&D with. So then there's a lot of back and forth where like people are designing the product in the States. They're trying to have the Chinese make it to their specifications and so on and so forth. So, I think just like we saw with nicotine vaping, simplicity is probably going to win out in cannabis as well. But I do think that cannabis will probably have a stronger hobbyist market because they have had that for like decades. People with big old bongs and make their own glass and have pieces that are like artwork or some of the e-rigs and things like that. I think that scene is going to stay more alive, but I think there's a lot of space for innovation for sure, because if you try a lot of cannabis hardware products right now, they're not that good. And there's a lot of room for them to grow.
Have we actually slid backwards since I went to college? The 5-foot glass graphics with the nitrous insert, that sort of thing, because that was innovative.
I think if you can't hand roll a joint, you shouldn't be allowed to smoke it.
Oh, well,
I think I once said something similar, and then I tried to roll a joint. It didn't go well.
There you go.
I'd like
John,
to see
you're only
hardware
allowed
manufacturing.
one boomer comment every 10 minutes. That was your one. No, I'm kidding.
Because I'd actually like to see hardware manufacturing go back to the US. I'd like to see what products they could get manufactured there, and whether or not some of the machine shops would actually be willing to go down that pathway or that rabbit hole.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see that happening anytime soon. I would love for it to happen, but it's like our capacity to manufacture in the States has been so gutted by, different free trade agreements and stuff for the last multiple decades
Yeah.
that just try, you could try and you could do it, but to be competitive with the guy that's making a similar e-rig with similar quality manufacturing for like a quarter of the price, it's like, how do you compete? The only way you'd compete is some kind of tariff that then, makes those products the exact same price as an American made product, or, we shut down all, we become more nationalist and we have less
that's
free
a
trade.
vicious cycle of its own, really.
Yeah.
But you mentioned something, a good point about how you've got a lot of Chinese, whatever, I guess, just single serve, rechargeable cannabis products, and they're I guess the culture there is not very cannabis oriented. They don't really have a history of any. They don't really know a whole lot about cannabis.
Well, yeah,
Tell me
I mean,
some-
I think it's not legal there, and I think maybe they've loosened up recently, but I know, it's a serious jail time.
Yeah, illegal in China has a very different sort of meaning than illegal pretty much anywhere in the States. But
Yeah.
you bring up a good point. I hadn't really thought about that. But yeah, I've seen everything. Delta 8, the most interesting thing I saw was this, a single, Delta 8 stick, and it has a little switch. It goes from indica to sativa. I thought to myself, well, that sounds like bullshit. But at the same time, I really don't know. The way
No, I know the product you're talking about because the company that I used to work for made that, and yeah, there was actually 2 separate chambers inside there that you could switch from one chamber of liquid over to another, like with
Right.
2 separate coils and stuff.
And I think when I first got it, I was told that the sativa was the one that I wanted, so I wasn't falling asleep in my head. And I guess the indica, I guess in its defense, it seems to work because I don't remember ever having any problem going to bed when I tried that side of it. But yeah, those are I guess what's available in vape shops around here, and what you see in gas stations everywhere around, Birmingham is kind of, it's wild because, Alabama is Alabama, and, weed is, it's evil. So
now in legal states, if you go into a dispensary in a legal state, which I've been doing a lot more recently because of my new job, and that's going to be, part of where I'm going to be selling, it's less disposable. They have, disposables aren't as popular in the dispensaries, I found. Like it's more like cart mods, e-rigs, dabs, joints, all the classic stuff. I've seen disposables in some of them, but they don't seem as popular as like the D8 disposables are in vape shops and smoke shops.
I would think the D8s, the cost to, make those are much lower, I would think. I really don't know. But in your experience, so you have in Montana, what's the current state of cannabis
It's
legislation?
recreationally legal here. Yeah, it's legal.
I would love Montana. So in states where it is legal, it's properly. Do you have as much in the way of the youth, save the children as you do in states where it's illegal? Because from what
I mean, it's we just had a legislative session, and there was some outrage and whatever, and some of the old school conservative types were like, oh, look at what this has done to our state, but it's also minuscule, like fear mongering, and really like the benefits have outweighed the cons. I mean, as far as the tax revenue and less arrests for cannabis and things like that. So it takes some work off the plate of law enforcement. So but yeah, I mean, when we voted on it, it was like 58% to 41% or whatever. So obviously, there's still a good portion in this state that are against it and that don't like it, but it's here to stay. It's been, kind of codified into our laws, and we've set up a tax structure and all that for it. So
All right, I want to get kind of back into vaping here.
Thanks,
You know,
Matt.
with the industry at the point in time that we're in right now with vaping, and we need better than good representation. Do you feel that we have the right people in these positions as far as lawyers right now to take care of our situation?
Jesus Christ, John. That's a hard fucking question.
Hey, I'm not calling out the lawyers. I love lawyers, but I something I said a long time ago.
Matt, you go ahead and call him out, please.
Yeah, I said it a long time ago, and they're doing exactly. I talked about that last week on the show. Is just how they're thinning us out, and they've been doing that since 2017. They figured it out. They figured let's just spread it out to where they can't keep up with us, and we're just going to close city from city, state from state, and that's exactly what's going on. And I know money talks. I'm not going to pretend like you know we don't have great lawyers. We have good lawyers, but do you feel at this point in time, do we need better representation? Do we need to have that closer?
Well, I mean, I think we could always use better representation. I mean, but obviously it's like, you know, when you're on a shoestring budget, you can't, you can only get what you can afford, like you said. You know, I do think that there's some promising stuff. I mean, this Triton case is probably the most promising thing right now. You know, I guess I wouldn't say it like, do we have the right ones? But I wish we had more. You know, I mean, a lot of these people that are fighting these suits, I mean, I don't even know if some of them might even be doing some pro bono work and shit. Like,
right. I mean,
this is string budgets.
Yeah. I mean, there's no template for this. This is kind of uncharted territory, really.
So, I mean, like, you know, I think it's a nuanced answer to where, like, if like money was no issue, then sure. I mean, I'd bring in the heaviest hitters we could get. And I'm sure that, like, you know, we could bring in more and win a lot faster. But I think, like, for the amount of money that's been spent on vape advocacy recently, I know people have spent a lot of money in the past, but recently, I think that there's more stuff getting done than I would expect to get done.
Yeah. But even if money wasn't the object, do you think there is a bigwig lawyer out there willing to take this on and take on RJ Reynolds, take on the FDA, take on some of the other big tobacco companies?
Oh, I'm sure there would be, but I think that they would want to get paid. I don't think that any of them would do it.
No, nobody's doing pro bono work.
I'm sure that there would be. I'm sure that there, you know, for the right price, if the case was compelling, they would take it.
Okay.
But I guess that's my question then. So, I mean, would either or make a difference, right? So, I mean, if you have the shoestring budget and you get the lawyers that you can, given the budget that's out there, and they're doing their damnedest to fight. I mean, it's not like they're just like, well, I'm like a rent-a-cop or something. I'm just going to give you half the effort. Would a bigger name or a heavy hitter lawyer or someone that's more prominent, do you feel that they would have a different impact on the outcome just because of the reputation?
That's tough to say, but obviously, like, you know, let's say you were to get some heavy hitter lawyer that's like gone up against the, you know, government agencies before the FDA for, you know, or gone up against big pharma for something or whatever. Then, you know, yeah, I mean, it would bring more attention to the case because, you know, some high profile lawyer took it, and I'm sure it would probably scare, you know, the other side a lot more. But, you know, whether or not they would have a better chance at winning or not, that's tough to say. I mean, who knows? It really depends on, like, how solid the case is. I mean, like, and who the judges are. I mean, like we see with this Triton case, like, people are thinking like there's a good chance that we're going to win in this Triton case. I'm knocking on wood because we've all been through this before.
Yep.
Sure.
But where was I going with that?
You're talking about which courts are more conservative versus which ones are.
But I mean, a lot of it has to do with what court it was in. I'm not saying that the lawyers are doing a bad job by any means, but I think that there was very competent lawyers in other circuits that lost that case. And so, you know, a lot of this hinges on judges and how they view, you know, some of these laws and what their, you know, political leanings are as well.
Yeah.
And the en banc appellate hearing, that was in the Fifth. Is that correct? The Fifth Circuit
Yeah.
appellate. That was essentially made up of very Southern
Yeah,
conservative
and
justices.
that's the Triton case,
Right, right.
and like FDA tried to get part of that case or all of it
Yeah,
moved to, like,
moved
the
to
DC circuit.
which would have had a completely different outcome. I'm
Yeah.
absolutely certain of it.
Yeah, but I
And
mean,
it-
obviously, like if the Triton case wins, then you have conflicting cases on the district level, and at that point, like FDA is going to try to push it up to the Supreme Court. I don't know what the other options are.
Which is such a bizarre possibility. The fact that is not only possible, but there's a 50-50 chance it could end up before the Supreme Court. That blows my mind. And
I mean, I don't know
it-
a ton about law, but when you have like conflicting decisions but from different circuits, is that what they're called? Circuits? Fifth Circuit? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it does, and then it's appealed. Like, isn't the next place it would go is the Supreme Court, or is there something else?
basically the win in the Fifth Court of Appeals makes it that much more likely that there will be a split decision and it will end up in the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Now, as much as I really do think it's unfortunate that we have courts deciding what should not be this should never have been such a difficult decision. I think the one thing that I'll never forget you saying in 2019 is like, we both looked at each other. I hate that this has become political, and we looked at each other like, yeah, this is just the beginning. And I agree to this day. But I think that on the flip side of that, the FDA has forced our hand into this place because they've been just so overtly I've never seen anything like their mixed messaging and the way in which they have changed, the guidelines and everything. I never thought anything like this could be so, not only anything like this could be possible, but so incredibly public. It's just right there for anyone to see. And all that being said, I think we do have some very impressive legal minds who are not necessarily, in the courtrooms, like Jonathan Adler, at Case Western. He writes very persuasively in favor of tobacco harm reduction, and he's a fairly conservative legal scholar, but he is also someone who's well respected, and he's put out quite a few pieces for Reason, and they've all been. I've been very impressed with what he's written.
Yeah, he's not a quack. I mean, he's a libertarian, leaning scholar, but he makes solid points for sure.
No, he definitely does.
Timmy.
Yeah. Oh, question. All right. Hold on. You caught me off guard. I was busy doing something else. I'm thinking. I'm thinking quickly. Well, there was an article that I wanted to talk about later in the show, because I know, Matt, you can't stay with us for the whole time. But I pulled this one article that I was looking at. Let me just. It was a question about the FDA basically blaming the blame game again. Hold on, let me find it real fast.
Congress.
No. They are. This is where the FDA. This is a recent article where the FDA. Come back there. The FDA is blaming retailers as illicit vapes fill the void left by the agency policy. So they seem like they're still playing the same kind of game. Why do you think they stick with the same old point the finger at the retailers as being the cause and effect for the issue that they're trying to clean up, when they realize, when they don't seem to acknowledge the fact that the crackdowns that they're instituting just open the back door to the illicit market more often? Why do they? Is it because they just are being legislators? They don't want to take responsibility for the fact that they recognize that their legislation is flawed?
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, usually you see the government double down on stuff like that. Like, obviously vape advocates were screaming back then, like, you're just creating a bigger black market. You're going to go after Juul. That's fine. The kids will find something else, and it was all very, very predictable. And I think looking back on it, you would have to have no brain cells at FDA to, if you thought that you didn't do that. Like, I'm sure behind closed doors, they're like, well, because of this policy, we created this pretty big black market. And now our problems are way bigger than they were when, Juul was enemy number one. And
Right.
so, yeah, I mean, but are they going to admit that? No, I mean, just,
Absolutely.
government, not just ours, but just most governments don't admit when they're wrong very often. They don't want to like show like humility. They're afraid that it shows weakness or like people won't trust in them again or whatever. So they'll just double down on a lie instead.
Well,
And right now, I think the FDA, with vaping, it might be one of the easier points of denial for the FDA to just continue running, their stock lines, because let's face it, we're not exactly, let's just say, people who are in favor of passing and regulating a bunch of flavored vaping products. Well, they're not as plentiful as those who don't. And on the flip side of the coin, there are a lot of people who need baby formula. So let's just say this is one of those areas where the FDA can feel confident that they can spew nonsense and get away with it, which is
we're an afterthought for them. And it wouldn't shock me if some of them at FDA want that Triton case to be won by us. I mean, because I think a lot of times like the FDA was somewhat handcuffed into like what they had to do. And then they've changed their rules multiple times depending on what leadership comes along. So I'm not saying leadership wants to lose the lawsuit, but I wouldn't shock me if a lot of the scientists there want to lose the lawsuit, because at this point it's become so like jumbled and it's just such a can of worms that it's almost better to just start over with the nicotine regulation and hope that you can do it more coherently this time. But
right.
Hang on. Do you think that the scientists at the FDA, they're being silenced and not being allowed to actually put out the real data sets? That's a very serious question.
Well, I mean, there was like a whistleblower a while back. There was that whistleblower a while back that was like, people, when they were doing the Reagan-Udall thing, there was people that were like commenting anonymously that were apparently, at FDA, and there was some other proof as well. I don't know, to what extent, but I do think that, some scientists have definitely been overruled, quite a few times. I don't know, to what extent they're being muzzled or whatnot, but
I always think of Matt Holman as an example of someone who, granted, he was offered a position where he had. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Tim.
I just the reason why I wanted to ask that question initially was, do you think that their failure to acknowledge their failed policy is making it more dangerous for everyone collectively? So what I'm saying, I guess the reason why I'm asking that question is because it seems obvious that if they're going to move forward with the current policy and try to crack down in the same channels, take it away from the C-stores, take it away from the vape shops, take it away in other different angles, and they realize they've opened up this pathway to bring in more from the illicit market, then they have to deal with enforcement at that point. And so when they have to clean it up with muscle, right? Because that's really what it's going to boil down. I mean, other than flagging it at, front with a container coming in through a port or something like that, you're going to have people out on the streets with these illicit products, and they have to, if they want to dampen it another way, they got to come in. So what I guess what I'm saying is, does this failed policy make it more dangerous for the everyday consumer who now has only one option, and that's to buy illicit products or black market products or products that can't be validated?
I mean, potentially. I don't ever use that argument too much about, the black market. It's dangerous because, most of the black market vapes are legal in other they're being made by like companies that make legal vapes in other countries. So like, just because an Elf bar is illegal in the US, that's made by, I believe Geek Vape is the parent company, so
it is.
like, I wouldn't necessarily, I don't want to like fear monger to that extent. Obviously it's possible that like, so we get some tainted batch of disposables and whatever, something bad happens, to it. But, I don't think that that's the biggest risk. I mean, the bigger risk is just people not having access to these products and going back to smoking. But
Right.
you know what
Yeah.
the
Well,
FDA did.
that, and as well as he doesn't give a shit if you're 21. The guy on the street don't care if you're 21.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and what the FDA did is they, you know, when they opened up that vacuum and disposables filled it, they had created such a bigger problem for themselves because now every single smoke shop sells disposables and gas stations, and it's become a huge revenue stream for them.
Right.
And so now it's not just like trying to go after 10,000 vape shops at vape shops peak. It's going after, you know, probably 100,000 plus retailers, C-stores, head shops, smoke shops, you know, which I know they sold some vapes back before disposables got popular as well, but not that many. Now it's become a revenue stream. And it's not like the smoke shops are just going to willfully stop selling this stuff just because they read that the FDA doesn't want them to. So yeah, there's even more places that the FDA would have to go enforce against now.
Yeah. Well, it's sad. I've talked about this before, but I've asked a couple people, you know, that are not smokers, they're not vapors. And one of the things that keep coming up when I keep talking is the fact that cigarettes have become such a big part of a lot of countries' finances. It's part of their tax program. It's part of everything. So they would rather get rid of vaping. They're saying, well, what are we going to replace the cigarette tax money with? It's going to come out of our pockets. And that just kind of drives me. I get it. They don't care. They don't give a shit if you're going to smoke and die from cancer. That's your problem. But when you have just someone outside of our little community or smokers that just say to you, hey, if you take away cigarettes, well, they're going to come after us, the taxpayer, somehow, some way. How's that make you feel when you have you had someone say that to you?
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, I think like, you know, the realist in me is like, I always knew that taxing vapes was going to be inevitable. But the big fight is like making sure that it's taxed appropriately. Well, you know, like it should not be taxed the same way as cigarettes. You should not have, you know, a bottle of e-liquid that goes from $15 all the way up to $60 because it was taxed, you know, so much. Like, you know, I don't think we're ever going to get out of here scot-free without taxes because this country
No,
loves
yeah.
to
Hold
tax
on.
prices.
Yeah, I don't mean that. They're saying what they're saying to me is they would rather see cigarettes around than to see vaping around because the money that's coming in from cigarette sales is part of so many different states, cities, our country's budget that if you were to replace you would not be able to replace that money but have to go after the taxpayer in some sort of way, adding property taxes, whatever you want to call it, you know, increase the sales tax per se. Basically, they're saying if we take cigarettes completely away, it could ruin cities and states.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean that's the unfortunate part of like getting hooked too much on a certain, you know, tax because you know a lot of them back in when you know the master settlement agreement happened, you know, a lot of them, a lot of states, I think, just assumed that people were going to continue smoking and that, you know, 25% smoker rate was going to stay there and whatever it was back then,
Yep.
you know, and so, you know, they're obviously in for a rude awakening. Do I think that there's people in back rooms saying we need to kill vaping in order to make sure people continue smoking? No, I don't think that. I don't go that far to like the conspiracy side of it, but I do think that like
Agreed.
you can't help but be influenced when you're getting that much tax money and then something else
Billions.
is coming in and not being taxed. So like
Especially when you've taken loans on, you know, monies not yet received, you know, for infrastructure,
so I think it's more like unspoken shit that just creates bias, you know, because of the revenue that they're so hooked on.
I just go there because if you know, I mean, you've noticed, you look at the countries that are fighting so hard to get rid of vaping and you see the money that's coming in through tobacco and how it affects their budget. And it's that important to those countries that money keeps coming in and people keep smoking. India, for instance, I mean, they didn't.
And what I just said was specific to the US. There may very well be like in India, they might have those conversations like when they ban vapes, like because they're very much so you know, hooked on that money.
Yeah, I can't remember where we're at on that list as far as smokers. I think we're still in the top 5, I think, correct?
I don't think so
Did
anymore.
we drop?
No.
I honestly don't know.
I'm
Drop
not
from
sure,
where?
though.
But the flip side of that coin is like what Marwa Glover was talking about when she was on here a couple weeks ago, is how New Zealand is quietly, creating a creeping ban on cigarettes by putting age restrictions. You have age restrictions every year, which ups the age that you could buy tobacco, and they're actually cutting back on the number of licenses that they issue to nicotine vaping shops and establishments. So, years down the road, you can be 99 and buy a pack of smokes. 98, you're too young.
Yeah.
And instead of expanding the availability of vaping products, they've actually, tightened the number of licenses they're giving, which is, I thought, was kind of just astonishing, really.
Yeah, it really is. Even in countries that are more friendly to vaping than ours, they do stupid stuff like that. Where you would think, hey, if we're trying to completely phase out cigarettes, like we need to make sure that the vapes have everyone has access.
We're not in the top 10, which surprised.
Whoa, Chile.
Where the hell is Nauru?
I have no idea where Nauru is, but they're it's
52% of their population smokes. That's crazy.
That is crazy. Serbia, I get it. It's been a rough few decades.
Yeah, it's a rough few decades.
I don't know what's going on in the Andes, man.
That's insane.
That is pretty insane. But what I do know is that, and I believe this, it's very simple. If you go ahead and prohibit something which is currently legal, and you do it in a way, I mean, that's a tragic idea to begin with. And right now in the United States, they're looking to, menthol accounts for 1/3 of the regulated cigarettes that are sold in this country. And if they actually do, manage to pass some sort of menthol ban in the next 5 years, whatever, that's just, especially without, offering a equally satisfying, less likely to kill you alternative, you're criminalizing something. And it's already been shown in many studies that people who smoke regular, full nicotine cigarettes are going to break the law to get what they want. It's kind of, that's a little scary what could happen there.
Yeah, anyway. That's the problem I have, because I've had this discussion with people about like the New Zealand law, and it, obviously if everyone quits smoking and they only vape or use other, harm reduction products, that's a net benefit. But I still it's just too authoritarian for me. And what's going to, it doesn't ever happen as easily as you think it's going to be. There's going to be a black market for cigarettes there. And, will there be crime that's created around that? And I have a problem with banning more drugs, even though we know cigarettes are bad. Like we also know what happens when you ban drugs. And so I don't agree with the tactic there, although we could still definitely say that they're more friendly to THR than a lot of other countries.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to put you on the spot here. You ready? The first song you remember learning all the words to as a teenager, and can you sing a few bars?
Oh, geez. See, I was always a drummer. I played drums in a band, so I never knew all the words.
He just knew gang vocals. Hey.
I played in a punk band.
Da da da.
I know. All right. First song you learned how to play on drums in terms of you had a kit.
This was like the early night. The two albums that I would play to the most was Green Day, Dookie, and Nirvana, Nevermind.
Actually,
and Nirvana, Nevermind. And then later on, towards the late '90s, I got more into like punk and NoFX and Pennywise and the Epitaph bands and stuff like that. So, like then starting to like practice to those and do that fast beat with like try to make your it sound like you have a double bass pedal when you don't.
Yeah.
I definitely worked my my shins out quite a bit.
We still need to get you to sing a song, so you got to think hard.
We still need songs.
Don't worry. Most of us know them.
When I come around. No, I'm not going to do that. That's a tough drum song to play. Actually, that guy is a hell of a
There
drummer.
was a song that was in my head earlier today.
Hey, you two, Tim, don't you even say the name of that song because it's not in my head right now.
Nope, I'm not.
All right, good boy.
Go ahead and say it.
I've been talking around my back again.
How about you guys give me a song and I'll see how many words I know.
Oh, and you are born when? So I can make sure I get
81.
81. Ooh. Let's go. 81. So we got to go mid 90s for Matt. Mid 90s. Ooh.
Okay. So no Puff Magic Dragon, I take it.
I can do like Puff the Magic Dragon.
If we're going,
that's all I got.
Well, we're going mid 90s.
Like when you were 13, what was the first song you remember, like, sitting around and waiting to hear on the radio? Or is the radio already like passe?
How about
at that
Torn by Natalie Imbruglia or whatever?
No, I don't know that
one.
Tim, you break my heart, man.
How about,
I was just throwing a curveball.
All right, I got one for you. I got one for you.
Okay, you go.
Go ahead. Gangsters of Paradise. I know you know the words.
All I know is the chorus. Been spending most our lives singing it, living in a gangster's paradise. I'm not a singer.
That's okay.
That's all you get.
How about Creep by TLC?
What was it? How come the mid 90s were all about like R&B? There was rock in the mid 90s.
It was great rock in the mid 90s.
Yeah. But everything was kind of, I don't know. There was just so much because 9 Inch Nails was popular around that time. Soundgarden was still big around that time.
Bad Motorfinger. Brilliant.
Yeah, that's a great album.
Great album.
Smashing Pumpkins.
Yep, Smashing Pumpkins.
Gish, Siamese.
We were still kind of like in that transitionary period where we were we were dealing with grunge on some level, but it wasn't quite like that sort of Neil Young kind of grunge.
Yeah, I was born in 81, so like Kurt Cobain died when I was 13, but I lived in Seattle. But from what I remember, it was like once he died, and then you started having these other bands like Bush and like stuff like that start with the grunge sound. Like a lot of the original grunge people were like, grunge is dead. We're not touching grunge ever again. But then there were some good post grunge bands in those mid 90s. And then like the pop punk sounds really got more popular, with the alternative crowd, later on. And also like the Modest Mouse style of music, whatever you want to call that, indie rock,
indie kind of, that kind of took off. Yeah, that's where you got a lot of those. I called them college bands.
Yeah, that was late 90s, and then it got really popular early 2000s.
Yeah.
I went to school in Tempe, Arizona. It was the Meat Puppets, and then it was the Gin Blossoms, which I tolerated because the first album was pretty good. But yeah, we had a pretty decent punk scene. I love it. But we have to come up with something that we can all sing pretty quick. Otherwise, people are going to stop watching.
Steve had one, Roxanne. I think we all know the
Roxanne. You don't have to put on the red light.
Come on, Matt.
It's for money. You don't have to sell your body to the light.
See, Philip's got the perfect like Sting voice. Like he's got that natural high register. I have to do it all in falsetto, and it just doesn't sound right.
Oh man!
I was in the best British band from Birmingham, Alabama ever.
Yeah. If Matt was arrested with no explanation, what would his friends and family assume he had done?
Something drug related, probably. Yeah, because like I'm not violent.
I can see Matt say hello to my little friend.
I'm not a violent person. Honestly, they would assume that like it depends on what state. Like if I got arrested in Idaho, they'd be like, "Oh, he brought weed to Idaho."
What was he thinking? Again, right?
We would send our Marines in there to get you out, Matt.
Thanks,
You're not
buddy.
Brittany Grinder.
No, you're a man of peace, but God bless you. I love it when you absolutely go full on passionate, Matt, and just call people who are so out of line out on Twitter because you simply are compelled to do so in a way that only you can do, because it is I think for you something that it's involuntary, and I've never seen you be in the wrong when you're doing it. So thank you for that,
Oh,
because
thanks, man. Yeah, I mean, a little bit about my personality is that I can be a hothead, but then even when I know I was right, I still feel guilty like 2 hours later. Like I just like I don't like lingering conflicts. Like I'm very vocal. I communicate. I'll tell you how I feel, but then like a couple hours later, it'll just still be like lingering in the back of my head, bugging me, and I'll wish that I would have just kept my mouth shut.
That's spoken like a true dad right there.
Yeah.
That's how I'll punish them,
So
and
that-
then like
that-
2
that
hours
raises-
later.
in that respect, you and I are very much alike. And then I have to come to the understanding that that really wasn't an option.
Yeah.
I had to go ahead and rage for a bit. But yeah, I try to avoid conflict up to the point where, the situation calls for a certain amount of.
What were you saying, Tim?
My question was, as it raised, I'm here. No, it raised a question for me, because I think we all have had to find our own filter or goose fraba or whatever you want to call it. Matt, how have you dealt with the stress around the vape industry? Obviously, like I have a really hard time. Like, remember when we used to have like those series of hearings around vape bans and all that stuff, or those congressional hearings? And I couldn't do it for more than like 10 or 15 minutes. I had to turn it off because I just found myself becoming so infuriated inside by some of the stuff that they were saying. But, you read articles and you get mad, and you see the bullshit on social media and it makes you. How have you dealt with that natural stress that comes with realizing that you're on the right side of things, but you hear and see a lot of bullshit?
Probably not well. I am, I a little about me. I think we might have talked about this on the show before, but like I was on opioids for 8 years, and when I finally got completely off of them in beginning of 2017, end of 2016, around there, I was always kind of an anxious person, but my anxiety levels like went next level, and it's been like that ever since. And I go to therapy, and I take like an SNRI that doesn't really do much, but I feel a lot of feelings, so things hit me hard. So, for example, this last weekend, a homeless dude was beaten to death in our town by some teens, and it just infuriated me because they've been beating these homeless people for the last couple of months. Someone finally died. I knew it was going to happen. It's those kinds of things bug me. I think, not that it doesn't bug other people, but I always feel like it bugs me more. So,
right.
And there's times with vape advocacy where I just have to take a break and just walk away and not get too involved in it, because I do get really anxious and really worked up over it, and it can sideline a whole day or week, where you don't want to let it, take over other parts of your life.
If you got a chance to sit at the YouTube table, Matt, what would you say to them to bring some change?
I don't know, man, because it's that obviously they need to be more consistent, which they already know, and they need to be more black and white, but they don't do that because of legal reasons. They leave things vague to give them wiggle room.
Yep.
But the big problem is the advertisers themselves. They're not going to go easier on vaping for as long as the advertisers don't want their ads on vaping content. So I don't. I would definitely take the chance to say my piece to them, but I don't know that if there's really any fix or some kind of compromise we could come to.
Yeah, I thought about that one myself, and you're right. I mean, the advertisers are going to dictate what's going to be seen or how they push certain issues on YouTube, but it's just funny to me that I can go in there and type for the longest time. We could go in there and type just about anything we wanted, and we were going to see it. If you wanted to see bum fights, you wanted to see fights in people's yards, if you wanted to see car crashes, I mean, all that stuff is there. But those groups, and for a long time, the chewing channels were huge.
Yeah.
The chewing channels were like, I was looking at chewing channels numbers, and I was like, are you freaking kidding me? I mean, how does a chewing channel have 2 million subscribers? And I'm just like, it's insane. Are they going after them? Because I haven't seen any change as far as them going after some of those channels that are cigar channels.
They did years ago, but like
Yeah.
2019, they cracked down on them. Like there was that one guy that was super popular, and then he kept. Do you know what's his name though? It's on the
I can't remember his name, but I know who you're talking about.
He did shit with
he did shit with his truck all the time.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
geez, even I know this guy.
he kept getting everything demonetized and age restricted and like suppressed. So then he started making more like lifestyle content for rednecks, you know, because that's kind of what he was. I mean, he even called himself that. It's not derogatory. He called himself a redneck.
Redneck something. I forget. I know.
So it's happened. You know, obviously we're in vaping, so we see what happens to us. So we think it doesn't happen to others, but like I've seen it happen to like left-wing news, right-wing news, crypto channels, even like some like, you know, channels you wouldn't think of, LGBTQ channels, just because, you know, they might have said something in there that was, you know, to adults or whatever. So
well, you couldn't say the C word for a while here for the last 3 years on your YouTube channel without having someone send you something. So, and I'm talking about that's COVID. I'll say it. They can do whatever, but you couldn't say that word on the YouTube channel for a long time.
I need an eraser. I thought you meant a different thing. Sorry.
So, I mean, that's the unfortunate part of the, you know, how platforms operate is that they have to rely on advertisers, and then those advertisers dictate stuff, and then they're constantly changing their policies to align with what their advertisers want. But they're also inconsistent when they enforce it, because there are some channels where you'll find them and you'll be like, wow, I can't believe they got away with that. And it's not like I think YouTube's like just giving them a pass. I just think they haven't found them yet.
Well, I mean, even Tim's brought it up before on this channel that, you know, we're doing what's necessary to keep that kid off our page. I'm having to make sure that box is checked. I'm doing all this stuff. That should be enough.
Yeah.
And it should, and now if they were smart enough, which I'm assuming they are, they created this channel, but cater to that, go out and cater to that channel and get that type of advertising to come on there. And I know you can't do it with tobacco and other stuff like that, but find people that are out there that are willing to do advertising on your channel, Grimm's channel. There's people out there that will pay to
and they do have a category for that. And so, you know, like I do still get some ads, but it's way less ads than I used to get. Yeah. And I think that they get some of those advertisers that are willing to be on more, you know, edgy or adult content. But
a lot of erectile dysfunction, homeopathic remedies.
There's not enough of them yet, I think.
Well, they tied vaping in with ED.
Thank you, Stanley.
So might as well just have a Viagra commercial during one of your fucking reviews, man.
Yeah, next time you vape and your dick goes limp, pop a Viagra.
Hey, man, I've learned all kinds of interesting things. Bought a whole lot of product before your video even started. But the truth is, when you and Nick both were having to deal with just ridiculous and changing guidelines that were sort of just aimed at your channel, and they were seriously close to just it was desperate. And
I was one strike away from losing it.
I think I've never really lost my mind like I did when I saw that going on, because I can't think of two YouTubers. I mean, you two are the most responsible content creator I know of. I mean, there are some very good advocates / reviewers on YouTube, but there are, if I think of two people that actually do it well and do it responsibly, you and Nick come up, first, to mind. And there are plenty of people who are not doing it the way that you should.
Yeah.
And which made me think that it was something that perhaps had to do with how many subscribers you had, and maybe coordinated effort by, some people who simply don't like vaping. I'm not saying that this was a conspiracy, but it wouldn't take a whole lot, a few paved complaints, a few well-placed complaints.
It just
I mean,
takes
who
one
knows?
person. It takes
Yeah, it's
one
possible
person.
that it's. I mean, it could be multiple things. So it could be that because I've heard of like some of these ants groups doing like mass flagging. So they'll go to like social media pages and mass flag some vaping content or whatever. It could definitely be that. But what would happen, or the algorithm just found me. I think of the algorithm in YouTube as like this little snake that's like slithering around, these hard drives, and like they find certain things and then zero in on you for like a week or a month or whatever, and then they kind of go on to their next target or whatever.
Yeah, they're
Or
dangling the apple. They're dangling the apple.
if it was YouTube themselves, like, hey, let's just get rid of Matt, they had the chance to get rid of me there.
Yeah.
So if they wanted to get rid of me, they could have gotten rid of me right at that time. And so to me, I think it's more either mass flagging than so when they mass flag, the algorithm automatically looks at it. Then the algorithm combed through a bunch of old videos. They saw that I had links on packaging or whatever, and bam, hit me. Or just the algorithm just happened to find me. It was just my turn, and went after me that way.
Yeah, it's insane. It's insane.
Hopefully things have calmed down significantly since that, because that was just an awful.
Yeah, it's been a year since that happened, and I've kind of been waiting for like a new round because sometimes this happens yearly. But I mean, I don't know what else they could get me on at this point. I had to delete so many videos.
Are you scripting your shit out now just to be safe or what?
Well, no, I mean what they got me on bad for last time was their links policy. Now that used to just apply to your descriptions and stuff like that, but they hit me for links that were on a box. So if I'm unboxing a smoke box and it says their website URL on that box, they were hitting me for that on like videos that were
years old.
Old videos. And so I all of that's gone off my channel. I'm not sure what they could find next. I mean, maybe there's something I'm not thinking of, or they'll change their policies.
You got the big three, and that's you, Nick, and Mike. And it seems like here lately they've kind of backed off of you three. And I'm just kind of wondering. I wanted to do a show just to get some of the newer vape, the new vape review channel guys that come on and just kind of talk about the process that they're going through and if this any different, does Doug's vape channel with 53 subscribers get the same treatment as Matt with, what do you have, Matt? 250, 250,000?
340.
340. It makes me wonder, do they not pay attention to Doug with 53 subscribers? If he mistakenly adds a link to his channel, as they would with
I mean,
you.
I don't think they catch everything. In theory, the algorithm should get better and better as time goes on, and they should be more consistent and be able to catch everything. But I'm sure there's plenty of videos out there right now that have links under them that haven't gotten found or hit yet.
Yeah. I mean, it's and it's not just us either. It's not just I've noticed a lot of other content creators out there are really starting to pay attention to the rules and making sure, letting hey, I got this product for free. Because that used to be a thing that was never said. It was just like, hey, this is the new whatever, and just go out and give their opinion without telling the viewer, yes, I got this product for free. And that's what I've noticed.
Yeah, I always put that in my description because sometimes I forget to say it.
Yeah, because like even I watched some of the big tech channels. They have changed a lot of things that they used to not do 4 or 5 years ago, just to try to avoid some of the confrontations. And I think they've noticed, not just in our industry, but other industries, with advertisers just dropping them and losing money. Because some of these, you got like Linus Tech Tips. I mean, he's changed the way he does his show. I mean, he lets you know that he got the product for free. When he's comparing things, it just seems like, I think everyone on that platform is starting to really open their eyes and trying to make sure they keep those channels because what Linus is over 10 million subscribers on that channel. So
Yeah.
I feel like maybe there's probably a lot of factors that play here, right? So when Matt and Nick and people were starting to get targeted heavily, I feel like it was guilt by association in a lot of ways. Not because Matt and Nick or even like Daniel DJ LSB vapes and even some of the other international vape reviewers. I don't feel like they were doing anything to try to certainly cross any line that would draw attention to themselves. You're providing basically a service in a lot of ways to people that are interested in researching vape products, and so we lean on your experience and thorough review of that device to guide us down whether or not we're going to buy it. Right? I mean, that's really what it was all about. It really wasn't about preaching health aspects of vaping or anything like that. It was here's this device, this is what's new, this is what it can and can't do, these are my knocks, these are my pros and my cons. You can choose to buy one if you like, but I like it myself. But I feel like just like with the music industry and everything else, once something starts and kind of gets a bit popular, everybody else wants to get involved too. So you started to see all these small vape reviewers pop up. Everybody used to review e-liquid, or they would all review the next TFV this, TFV that. And I think if they wanted to try to dampen it, their algorithm per se was really intended to kind of take down some of those bombastic kind of less important channels. And then you guys kind of got caught up in the riffraff of that, and you just were swept up by the algorithms. It's like, might as well just make them all, treat them all one-dimensional at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you have an algorithm, you can't really teach it too much nuance. At least, I mean, I'm sure they're getting better and better, obviously, with AI. So I guess you probably can. But the algorithms they've used so far, I don't think that they necessarily are like, oh, hands off this guy because Matt had oral cancer from smoking and he has a good heart. And he's, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think it's just like, just go through the list. We're just a number, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I lost my mind just because you've been doing it for so long and you do it so professionally, and you provide a service that is absolutely, help so many people like learn how to use these products and get comfortable with it. And for them to pick on you and then Nick, I thought I was losing it. I'm really happy to hear that things are at least back to some semblance of sanity. But that was really bizarre.
Yeah, I miss you guys, you and Vanessa doing the sample box unboxings and stuff. Those were the good days, man.
Her infectious laugh, right?
Yeah, actually,
we do videos like if I review a disposable, her and I do it together. Yeah, because it's more of like how are you going to review a disposable with it's more like talking about the flavors. Obviously, you can talk about the device somewhat. But it's more of like a liquid review as opposed to a hardware review.
Maybe the draw battery life. That's about it.
Like sometimes that disposable is the hardest thing to review.
You could spend 45 seconds just going through all the quick specs, battery, life, how much liquid is in there, and then the rest of it's just like subjective taste testing. And stuff.
I used to like the fact that you guys would fight over who was going to vape which flavor out of the box. those, and she would always win. So you would end up with the flavor you didn't want for the vapes.
We still have those arguments, and she wins.
She would always win that argument. And you would end up with some pina colada, whatever vape that you didn't want to touch or whatever it was.
Coconut. I don't know if this was Facebook or on your channel, but she gives you some really great Christmas presents. I don't know, like what pair of like boxer shorts you gave, just like Matt, just like just right across like the ass line. But you guys crack me up.
She's the type that will spend a bunch. She like anytime it's someone's birthday, instead of getting them like something they'll use, she has to get them a gag gift. And I'm like, they're probably like gonna throw that away. Yeah, you don't want to get them something useful, but she loves gag gifts. That's her thing.
Gag gifts, underwear, socks.
Anyway, I do need to jump off here.
Hey, thanks, guys. Thanks for jumping on, Matt. It was great having you on.
Hey, thanks, Matt. It's been
thanks
great
so much for having me. We'll do it again, and it was nice seeing all your faces.
All right,
great seeing you too, man. Take care. Be safe out there.
Bye bye.
Right, see you soon.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane. Just for shits and giggles, one night, I just kind of wanted to see what my grandson, he has YouTube, and my daughter Hope has the account, and he's limited to a child's account. So I just kind of wanted to, I started typing in to see what he can see on there, and I was shocked. I was like, How's this working? How's this stopping him from getting to see certain things that he shouldn't see? It was just horrible. The content was horrible. It's all adults, which, whatever you want to say, I just find it funny that listening to a kid play Minecraft while he's cussing and yelling and screaming is okay for a 10-year-old. You know what I mean? That's
so
okay.
You can set the kid's Google account to where it will only allow them to access what
YouTube
they deem
Kids.
to be age appropriate.
Yeah, YouTube
Yeah, but
Kids.
even that's sketchy because
Yeah.
I go and hang out at my good friend's house, and they have two young boys. One is on the spectrum, and so he's a bit fixated on things, right? So the things he gets fixated on generally aren't the problem, right? So he'll get fixated on things like tolling bells, like the Liberty Bell kind of size things, and so he'll watch video after video after video of a tolling bell. Car washes. He would get fixated on car wash videos of cars going through those car washes. I'm not trying to get off on a tangent. What I am trying to say is that when you do get into the child, quote unquote, safe content, even in that realm, it's weird, dude.
It's
you
weird.
get like,
Well, I mean, they're only giving him what they feed it in terms of information.
hold on. So what I mean is like, okay, there's one thing, like he can watch one show where it's like a father and a son doing toy reviews. Okay, that's not really a problem. Okay, because they're just reviewing a toy that they bought on Amazon, and they're just they're trying to monetize that, I suppose, because some of these children's accounts have some serious followers. But then you have like this older lady playing like grandma who
Yes.
takes kids on tours of like fast food restaurants and then orders like one of everything on the menu, and it's just really creepy. And I'm like, so even though we're in a space where we certainly don't want children viewing our content, trust me, once you get into the safe content that's available to kids, it can get really weird really fast. And it's almost creepy pedo weird.
Yeah,
we're definitely not we're for a mature audience, but we're not that bad.
No, we're not.
No. And we don't
turn the channel. I mean, change the channel.
Well, but the thing is that even, I mean, certainly we're talking about an adult oriented product here, and essentially a life-saving harm reduction method that was intended for us. So while really children shouldn't be watching this content, I don't think that we're playing heavily to an influencer angle. Do you know what I mean? Like we don't sit here and talk to people in the chat like we're all a bunch of little kids, like, hey, like I could do the romper room thing with the mirror when I say hello to everybody, but
I like to think we present a fairly diverse bunch of opinions, and we're all right. We're all wrong.
Yeah, for what I like Tim has brought up, and I brought it up. We're doing what's necessary to keep children off our channel. Now it's the platform's job and the parents' job to pay attention to what content their children are watching.
Right, because really, isn't that the argument, John? Is that we're flagging the content, but what if mom and dad are sitting there watching our content and they let the kids sit there with them? You know what I mean? They've already beat the system.
No self-respecting teenager is going to want to hear what I have to say on this channel. I guarantee. Yeah, come on.
And to me, I mean, I'm not going to pretend the numbers are the same today as they were, say, 6-7 years ago. But the views were high. The channel's views were high on a lot of this content. And to me, in a business sense, YouTube should have said, "Holy shit! Rick Tripper's he's got 1 million subscribers. Matt's got 300 and something. Nick's got 3 something. Mike's got 3 something. There's a lot of content that's out there. Let's cater our advertising for this content." To me, that's what I would do. And I'm sure YouTube was getting pressure from outside sources. I'm sure Parents Against Vape. I'm sure some of the other groups were out there going after YouTube at that time, saying, "Hey, you know what? We're just going to go and do like they were doing. They were just flagging." I got up one morning, and the Zamplebox YouTube channel had 50 flags on it.
When was this? I'm sorry.
This was when this a year ago, Tim? Year and a half ago?
About a year ago, yeah. He had to go through. Yeah.
I had to remove every single video. There's no videos on this channel of Zamplebox anymore. The nasty juice flavors, all the good content that was on there, just on battery safety, hardware safety, how to clean your gear. I had to remove all that stuff because they were just simply going in there and just flagging videos.
Did this somewhat coincide with what happened with Matt?
And, okay, we got all hit all at the same time. Matt, this channel, a couple other, Mike's channel. I don't know if Nick got hacked. Maybe Nick did or didn't. I can't remember.
I think Bogan got,
Mark got hit.
Vic, a lot of that.
For me, I was like, okay, there are some helpful videos in there. There was a lot of safety videos, battery safety, hardware safety videos. I had to remove all that stuff. So now there is no content out there. And some of that safety videos, Zamplebox spent a lot of money putting those together with graphics and designs and trying to help people understand battery safety, how to clean and maintain your gear. A lot of those videos were great, informative videos, and I had just
literally wiped clean, no backups anywhere.
No, they're still there. They're just private now. Every single video example.
At least they're still
they're still there. I can put them back.
Historical significance, because I mean, let's be honest. I mean, Jim McDonald put it very in a way that did give me pause. He said, a lot of these YouTube flags, a lot of these channels that are having to get rid of all these videos that are flagged. This is sort of the history of vaping and tobacco harm reduction, and a lot of it is perhaps lost completely. Not everyone is, I guess, saving these things, and that is extremely upsetting. But I think Zamplebox has over 130,000,
something like that. Yeah, 130, 140. Yeah. No, a lot of us, what they did is a lot of us put everything in private and then uploaded that video content and saved it. So Zamplebox did that. I mean, everything is private, but Zamplebox saved every video on a hard drive somewhere, just in case when things, get better or whatever, they intend to put a lot of that video back out there. And, do we need the nasty e-liquid tasting test? People found them funny. The one video that got the most flagged on the channel was the one about Zamplebox did a smart thing. They went out and found people, an older group demographic that was vaping, and they were all grandmothers that were vaping. And they interviewed all these grandmothers that are vaping, and a great video. And it showed a different side of vaping, here you go. Look, 50, 60, 65, 70-year-old women that are vaping, all women, just trying to show a different side of what we look like. And we're not all 21-year-olds wearing skinny jeans, running around with mullets, or whatever they called it. What's the other one called, Tim? The hair bun?
Man bun?
Man bun. That's the one I was looking for. We're not all those guys. So, yeah. Tim,
so you went around, so you had some, so you had grannies who are starting to vape. That was the last straw.
They flagged that one. I had to remove it. Yep.
I don't understand this world anymore. Tim, please.
What do you got, Tim?
Tell me what's happening.
All right, so I pulled a couple that seem to be kind of tethered at the hip. I wanted to first address. Let me share.
Oh, hold on, Timmy. I got it.
Yeah, do it, John.
It's been a while,
dying to do it. He was dying to do it.
Here it goes.
There you go.
Rat like it.
Clock strikes midnight, tornado, whatever that combination song is by Skid Row there. All right. Well, I wanted to talk about a couple articles only because they seem to be a little kind of tethered at the hip. But let's revisit the one first off that I did kind of briefly bring up while Matt was on the show. So hold on, I wish they would have never have changed this button to present.
I know.
I wish they would have just fucking left it as share.
Share.
Like,
I'm listening.
okay,
I'll be right back.
I'm 55 years old. You don't need to come up with some 3-point Scrabble word to otherwise quantify sharing something.
I present you, Tim.
Thank you very much. Well, so somebody very close to me the other day said they learned a new word, and I said, really, what's that new word? And they said that word is unsnib.
Unsnibbed.
Yeah, UNSNIB. Anybody in the chat without Googling it know what unsnib means?
Like you've been tricked?
No.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a brainiac in the chat that knows. The actual meaning of the word is to untie.
Untie. Oh,
Yes.
wow.
So my question was, well, why don't they just fucking call it untie?
Untie.
Like, why do we need unsnib?
Unsnibbed. I don't know. I was so
Talk about
unsnibbed.
It just is a little oxymoronic for me, I think, was the point I was trying to make. All right, let me share this. All right. Come on, share. There it goes. All right. So, here's the government playing the blame game again. All right. So they issued, apparently the federal government issued out a metric frick ton of warnings to a lot of vape establishments. And of course, they're pointing the finger at the retailers as being the absolute problem for why they need to issue these warning letters, because it's through those channels that these things are more easily obtainable, other than, the back of a Cutlass Supreme or somebody's, black trench coat, or out of a box behind some shady shop or something, some 5 and dime cash and carry place. So we'll read through a little bit of it. It says the Food and Drug Administration recently sent a flurry of warning letters targeting small retailers with unapproved vape products, right? These are the ones that had their PMTAs, MDOs issued, and they had to take their products off the market. Unapproved vape products on their store shelves. But the retailers, many mom and pop shops and locally owned convenience stores, say the problem is the FDA's foot dragging approach to approving legitimate e-cigarette products their customers demand, which is true, right? So, I mean, what do we talk when we talk about fighting from an angle of advocacy is resistance at all costs, right? So, I mean, there's a lot of people that are just going to immediately put the middle finger up to the federal government and continue to sell these products because they know they're doing it with good conscience, right? They're not peddling things. And not to mention these places, these stores and stuff, are not selling to kids. They're selling to adults, right? So, but again, the FDA, their angle is the kids. So the agency's warning letters sent to more than 200 retailers reference specific e-cigarette products that are particularly popular with teens, Elf Bar and Escobar products, as well as those under the Puff and Hyde brand labels. So the commentary from the FDA is protecting our nation's youth from tobacco products, including disposable e-cigarettes, is top priority for the FDA. Commissioner Robert M. Califf, MD, said in a statement, "We're committed to holding all players in the supply chain, not just manufacturers, but also retailers and distributors accountable to the law," which is what prompted me to ask the question, right? Because this is how the FDA wants to play the game. They want to softball this shit by throwing out warning letters, basically putting all the onus on the legitimate and law-abiding storefronts that are selling products. Under the guise of, well, it's really because of what you have in that store that we have this massive problem on the street. But they turn a blind eye to the black market coming in the back door, or at least allowing what would otherwise be safe and legitimate products that could be sold through a storefront to find its way into given access to anybody and everybody who wants to get their hands on it, because there's no regulation in the black market, right? No one's going to card you.
Nope.
When you're buying something from some guy on a street corner because he's got it in a box under the counter, right? So what the FDA failed to mention is the agency itself is part of the problem, critics say. While the FDA has disapproved countless legitimate products from U.S. vaping companies like Puff Bar and Juul, Chinese manufacturers have stepped into the U.S. market with copycat disposable vape products of their own. And I think that that's really where you start talking about the dangerous elements of it. So when we see the video of the Chinese factory where the guy's got 300 elf bars loaded into a tray and he's pulling on each one just to make sure that they work so that they pass the QC test to be shipped to wherever they're going to end up. That's the kind of products that the FDA ignores. But they'll go after the legitimate vape store. Yeah, go ahead, Phil.
Oh, nothing. My brain fell out. I'm no good.
No, I think they should
actually,
take
Caleb
the
actually tweeted
3,000 and change it to 2,099.9 just
No,
because of that.
I had thoughts about this. This is the 25th. On the 22nd of June, Caleb quote tweets the FDA saying the FDA is prepared to use all of its authorities to ensure these and other illegal and youth appealing products stay out of the hands of kids. We're committed to a multi-prong, great fucking word, multi-prong approach using regulation, compliance, and enforcement action and education to protect our nation's youth. Yeah. This is a man who has no idea what is and what is not important, and that's putting it extremely politely. So, of course, I had to put in my 2 cents were as follows. So, is the FDA now ready to authorize a few appealing, safer alternatives to cigarettes and to promote the health benefits of switching to the millions of adults who still smoke because they've literally been made to believe vaping is just as bad? It sure seems important, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So we're going to go ahead and talk about, good Lord, the the consequences of my ill-advised actions. Oh, we're having to deal with those now. Well, maybe if you would go ahead and promote these as the adult smoking substitutes that they are, I think of them that way. And as a matter of fact, on the risk continuum, I don't even like comparing them to cigarettes. It's just that much of a difference. It's a certain death versus nothing of the sort. And for him to literally just rail off like there was never any point to any of this other than to hook kids on what is otherwise, I'll say this again, no matter how many times people give me shit about it, the least harmful habit-forming vice out there.
Right.
And it's when are we actually going to see, yes, we finally have a few PMTAs, a few tobacco flavors that have been authorized by. When are we actually going to see a campaign aimed specifically at adults who smoke cigarettes to let them know, after all of the damage they've done, that this is a much better way to enjoy nicotine, and more importantly, it'll save your life, you idiot.
Is it right? And isn't that really sort of the crux of the argument? Is that when you talk about the alternative to smoking, that's really sort of the aim and the goal is to put a safer alternative into somebody's hands at all costs, and with this black and white approach to everything, where just because it has some mild opportunity to be an attractant towards a younger crowd, that's going to happen with anything and everything. I mean,
it's
to
just
the
like
point,
cigarettes when we were in high school, Tim. I mean,
well, it's true, and that's what I'm saying is like it's almost literally unavoidable that the younger generation, when they see something new and interesting out there, they're naturally going to want to try it or experience it or see what it's all about, so that they can make a judgment to decide whether or not that's cool enough or that's trendy enough or whatever. But like with everything else, trends and fashions move on. So they try it for a little while, and then it seems like it's a big deal. And then eventually, within about a year to 2 years time period, it's all but phased out and they moved on to the next thing. So that's why I was asking a lot of questions to Matt about the CBD market and the Delta market, because that just seems like the next natural transgression for them, because that was really sort of non-existent while vaping was sort of like starting to saturate the landscape. Vaping got popular and we had more and more in at our fingertips to try and experience, and all these different innovations and all that stuff. And then, but if we look at the smoking rates now, the vaping rates now amongst youth in general, the numbers have dropped significantly because the popularity of it, the newness and the coolness of it is somewhat worn off. Now, of course, will there be some retention because of that onslaught? Well, of course, typically most people find a way to grab a hold of some vice, right? Whether
Absolutely.
it's alcohol, whether it's tobacco, whether it's THC, whether it's huffing, paint cans, whatever.
My favorite.
Right. They'll always have an element of
Yep.
retention along the way that, we can hope and pray that it doesn't lead and doesn't become a gateway to something else. But if that's what we're left with, if this is the thing that's still in their hands that persists for time, at least it's the least most harmful one that's in their hand.
Yep.
And all I can say is what he does every single time he talks about multi-prong to save kids from this malign terror that is inevitably going to take them away from. It's absolutely not fooling a single kid out there. Kids know better. It's letting older adults who smoke know that this is just as bad as smoking.
Now, does the FDA still have the DOJ backing them up and the ATF when it comes to enforcing this now? Because that was something they added, like 8 months ago or 9 months ago?
Theoretically, yeah. Has it ever been employed? I don't think so.
Because that's the last fucking people you want coming into your shop.
The FDA, when Brian King said we're here to enforce the law, my jaw dropped to the floor. I said, "Your job is to enforce the law?" No. Your job is to protect and serve the public health of this nation. It has nothing to do with enforcing. Yeah, putting vape shops out of business, that's not your area, you schmuck. But what the most important thing that I'm noticing over and over again, it's not save the kids' line. It's the fact that there has never been, to my knowledge, any even like the tiniest effort on the part of our public health institutions, FDA or otherwise, even now that we have tobacco flavored, e-cigarettes that have been authorized as appropriate for the protection of health, we don't have a single underfunded shitty campaign speaking to adults who smoke about the benefits of switching. And as soon as you come up with something that speaks to adults who smoke, I swear to God, kids are going to lose interest.
Yeah.
Well, right. I mean, but because our conversation here is not geared towards kids. We're not trying to opine and and make any child think that they can be a fringe player in all of this somehow, some way. I mean, we talk specifically to adults about the benefits and our journeys in general on how we were able to quit smoking with vaping. And you can just really kind of look at us. I mean, just take the first example. I mean, sure, we might have some sciatica or a stiff knee or something like that, but we're not unhealthy people in general. Like, we're not like hacking and wheezing while we're on the vape show. You know what I mean? We don't look, like we're suffering chronic fatigue and have all these ailments because of the fact we're actually doing much better because we're not smoking and we're promoting. We're
almost at a fifth of tequila.
I played 18 holes today.
12 ounces here, and I'm 49 years old. I've never felt better.
Right.
I don't know what you guys.
Well, the article.
I played 18 holes and carried my own bag today.
But that's impressive. You don't have the little roll. You can't take the roller bag with the wheels on it, on the little dolly or whatever. My dad had the little fold out.
I have one
bag dolly or whatever. The article just kind of went on.
I spent the day like getting deeds re-recorded that were misrecorded by attorneys who don't know how to count. Okay, so that being said, that was fun.
The article just kind of went on to reiterate a lot of the standard points that are valid arguments in the vape space. Ned Bowman, executive director of the Florida Petroleum Marketers Association, interesting title, expressed similar frustrations. He said, "I think the issue with the FDA is that we haven't gotten a list of everything that's been approved and disapproved." Bowman said, "We haven't seen the information. We need to know which products are legal and which are illegal. And critics say it's a lot easier to send letters to local retailers than it is to fight the flood of illicit vapes at U.S. ports of entry or investing the time and resources to approve applications from legitimate vendors." That's our tax money at work right there.
Yeah.
Like, spend some money in that sector and really kind of go after what quagmire you've created.
It's to me, it's so painful to see this playing out, because these are all the steps that we should know better than to take. And it's already gotten to the point, and like we talked about before, admitting you're wrong, backing up, and addressing the problem correctly. Pride is a motherfucker.
Yeah.
Ideological, stubbornness equally. Just it destroys universes. What I'm seeing here is, when it comes to disposables, the worst, shittiest Chinese knockoff is not gonna hurt anybody. It's not gonna put you. It's gonna taste like shit, and you won't ever buy it again. Trust me.
Yeah.
First place I ever found a second, I guess, a B stock disposable made by Flume, whatever. Found it in San Diego. Icy peach. There was nothing peachy or iced about it.
Yeah.
It tasted awful. As
Right.
it turned out, it had already been scanned and verified once, which means it was just B stock or whatever. It was one that didn't pass their quality control measure. So these, for example, like Juicehead makes these. Geek Vape makes a bunch of them. I mean, the majority of them. Elf Bar is actually, as far as I know, their products are very well and thoroughly tested. Let's just say that it's the stores that get a hold of the second tier, just it's kind of like those Samsung batteries that Ohmwrecker buys and rewraps them. The Samsungs that don't make the cut, they go to some other rewrapping whatever battery reseller. Only in this case, it's just going to taste like crap, and mostly you're going to come by them in convenience stores where they've banned all flavors outright.
Yeah.
And here they haven't done that yet. And disposables, I'm now finding out that a lot of the more responsible vape shops here are offering free battery recycling for empty disposables. It's a beautiful thing, and they do have a use. I think my mother, for example, she has found that, well, she likes a disposable, and you can turn them into one of the vape stores around here. You pay 50 cents, they give you $1 off your next purchase. It's simple. Sure. And then they take them to any number of well,
batteries. I think you're raising a good point, is that people need to be creative around all of the arguments that are made, and I think that we've tried to stop the flood of some of that stuff that's out there. But we've talked about that before, creating recycling incentive programs to go ahead and bring those disposables back, so they don't end up being buried at a beach somewhere 6 inches down that grandpa's finding with his big toe. So
this is a shop that's decided to do it on its own, and they're actually having a lot of success with it. And I'm trying to you can't tell other shops like you need to do this. I try and mention the benefits of offering that service, because you will end up making more money that way. But let's just say sometimes it's hard to convince someone that they should make a 1 week run to Interstate Batteries or any number of Target has a battery recycling bin. They don't care what it is. If it's a lithium ion battery, they'll take it.
Sure.
So
you have to expand the program somehow. You have to find a way. I mean, you could do mail-in recycling or something like that. I mean, we talk about how there's older customers who won't be able to access their vapes if the vape shops are shut down. I mean, so if they're able to get their disposable products shipped to their house, they should be able to recycle on a shipping program too.
Absolutely.
Give them a return label to send it back. They can bag them up and send them back or something like that.
Yeah.
So,
we've learned from the beginning,
and the seller and the distributor, because let's face it, all this is well, it's good for the environment. It's good for people who don't have to smoke anymore, and people who found a way to not end up spending their last days on this planet knee deep in medical bills and just dying. And it's really a horrible thing that we're not seeing a bigger picture. But
we've gotten to the point, though. We've gotten to the point where it's just like, we will do these things, and every time we do and apply those changes, they just find another thing. Now we'll do this battery recycling program, and they'll go, well, we don't like anything orange. And then we'll just go ahead and go, okay, we'll take all the orange things out. And then
See,
they'll just
Atlanta, and especially where you are in California, I can understand
Yeah.
your feelings on disposal because you're in a much different place than where I am here. Well, we still have, vape shops. I would never recommend that anyone go into a convenience store or a place and just grab some random. You go into a vape store that has them right there. That can tell you what they are, and a lot of them have gotten very advanced. Most of them have a juice meter and a battery meter, and they let you know exactly when it's
I'm talking about the whole industry in a whole. It just seems like every time we go ahead and apply something that they're concerned about, they just try to find something else to go after us for. Whether in the beginning it wasn't really even flavors in the beginning. It was just the cheesy packaging, and then they wanted the 25% of the package to have the warning label. We went ahead and did this. It just seems like every
the
time
anti-tobacco campaigns are literally doing the work that they've they're informing every kid out there that you definitely don't want to try this peach flavored delightful little adult thing, and then they'll end up trying it. This is not about the industry anymore. It's literally about old ancient tobacco control tactics that are hey, don't touch that hot iron. Well, let me touch that hot iron.
We've all been there. We've all done that shit. It
pains
just
me.
that was my next door neighbor teaching me how a spark plug works on a lawnmower by tricking me and telling me, hold this right here on this spark plug while I pull this so I can see if it's working. And I'm like, all right, no big deal. And I put my hand on the plug and he pulled the cord and I was like, all right, I learned my lesson. All right. But
that's awfully rude. Terribly. That's
learn.
not very neighborly at all.
You got to learn. You got to learn. Well, hey, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We want to thank Matt for coming on again with us and chatting with us. It's always good having Matt on. I'm not sure who we have coming on next week. I'll let you guys know. But it was fun having Matt back on. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Paul. And thank you, Phillip. And
happy birthday, brother.
Yeah, of course, our highly intoxicated duo from Miami that jumped in for a couple seconds.
I have mine too somewhere. It's
I got mine in my bag.
The bottom of a bin.
Yeah, the problem is it doesn't really kick the full benefits don't kick in on that card until you're like 65, but you still get some deals.
All I'm trying to do, John, is I'm trying to turn the candor on AARP and make it cool. We no longer laugh at people who onboard AARP because we're just trying to be cost conscious people. So get an AARP card, people.
I think they should personalize that card somewhat.
Take it for what it's worth. Not either one of you would ever be able to convince me that you're over the age of 50 ever.
Oh man,
it's very simple. Because you're far too. I don't know. You sound like me anyway. I don't say this often enough, but thank you both for organizing and doing all the things that I don't know anything about, so we can have this time together. And great show. Thank you, Matt, for being here, and thank you everyone for watching. Really appreciate it.
We will see everybody next week. Peace and out. Which button do I
Pray
hit,
for
Tim?
Allison. Pray for Allison. We love
this
you.
one, right?
Here's numb.
Was that Tim?
She's numb right now. She's fine.
Yeah,
she's a professional. She understands how these things work.
I told her I don't want to see any videos of Allie dancing on a table. So as long as that doesn't happen, we're okay.
Never happened.
Did she actually promise?
No.
Good night, Tim. Happy birthday, bud.